Okay, so we're talking now about the differences between temperature and thermal energy. Well, one of the biggest differences is temperature is something that we can measure with one of these, a thermometer. Thermal energy we cannot measure with one of these. We need a fancy piece of kit that we won't get into at the moment. Now, let's assume that I've got two beakers here, and this one is at room temperature, 20 degrees, and this one is up at 50 degrees Celsius. They've got the same amount of water in them. They would, if I put the thermometer into each one of them, they would tell me a different temperature. But this one, that's at 50 degrees Celsius, has more thermal energy than this one that's at 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, now what I've got is I've got two different size beakers with two different amounts of water in them. And they are both at room temperature, so they're both at 20 degrees Celsius. Which one of them has more thermal energy, do you think? Take a few seconds, have a little think about it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you. This one here, despite being the same temperature as this one, will have more thermal energy. Because, remember, your thermal energy is your energy of all the different atoms and molecules that are in there. And this one quite clearly has a lot more water in it than this one here. So despite them being at the same temperature, this one has a lot more thermal energy. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that this small beaker here is at 50 degrees Celsius. And this big beaker here is at 30 degrees Celsius. So the small one is a lot hotter than the cold one. Or sorry, the small one's a lot hotter than the big one. Now, this will have a higher temperature. If we put the thermometer into each one of these, this one would have a higher temperature. But again, have a little think. Which one of these two do you think is likely to have more thermal energy? Again, take a few seconds, think about it. Okay, and again, I'm going to put you out of your misery and tell you, this one here will still have more thermal energy, because despite the fact that it is colder, despite the fact that it has a lower temperature, there are many more atoms in here that are moving. And remember, it's all the energy of those atoms that make the thermal energy. So this has more atoms. They might be moving slower. They might be hitting the walls of the container less hard, but there are more of them. And therefore, this has more thermal energy than this one, the hotter one.